Well, it's spring break and we're heading north. One of these days, I'm going to have time to stop and explore more around Fort Benning, but it's always cool to drive through here.
How much longer until we get out of Sweet Home Alabama, which we haven't listened to. Finally!
Notice the giant pothole right at the state line. At least they're honest about things and you know what to expect. Well, we spent a couple days in the northeast part of the state, and it was good getting reacquainted with some of the old roads and seeing some stuff I haven't seen in a while. Well, after a couple days of hanging out, we are off to go visit as much of the Ozarks as we can possibly see in the amount of time we have. Finally, some blue skies for a couple of days. Well, it's not the darkest hours of the night, but Casey's pizza's still awful good. Well, Six Fingers Falls has been on my list for a long time, and we're finally here. This place is absolutely gorgeous, and I could just probably live here. Well, after spending a good bit of time at Six Fingers Falls, we headed on up the road. This road's got probably a dozen small waterfalls and a couple more named on front. So let's see what we can see. This one is called Falling Waterfalls. There was a pretty good crowd hanging around it today, so we took a couple of pictures and then we just moved on. In Arkansas in March, there's about an endless amount of daffodils in bloom. They're really nice. And around every bend is a little old town with a funny name. We're now coming into an area known as the Boston Mountains. In my book, the Boston Mountains are some of the prettiest that I've ever personally seen, and I can't wait to spend some time in them. A lot of the time in my videos, I don't really share the names of the specific places I go, mostly because planning is half the fun of all this, and I think you should do your own planning and make your own adventure. Plus, places like this are just so hard to find and so beautiful. But it's Hall Creek Falls Recreation Area. It's in the Ozark National Forest. And it's absolutely one of the, probably the nicest campsite that I've ever stayed in. So if you decide to head over here, please just take care of the place. Well, from this point, we cooked our customary steaks, and hung out, and went on to bed.
Well, good morning. Time to start the coffee.
One of my main tools for routing and mapping and everything I do is Gaia GPS. So I sat here with my coffee and worked out our route to our next stop and try to get an idea of what we were going to do for the day.
This is one fantastic place to enjoy a cup of coffee. We slept great last night. We were just really a few feet away from this waterfall. So now we're going to try to get a little bit of breakfast, get packed up, and move on to our next spot.
I didn't have a whole lot of time and I didn't have a whole lot of luck, but I still had to throw out in the water and see if anything wanted to come by and say hi. Well, with breakfast over and camp packed up, we're back on the road. Well, we stopped in Marshall, Arkansas for fuel, supplies, and lunch. The Daisy Queen there is a really good place to get something to eat. Well, after another hour of driving, we checked out Barkshed Recreation Area to see if we wanted to stop here for the night. And although it's a really beautiful place, the site that we were interested in had a bunch of yellow jackets in it. I'm not sure if there was a nest or something spilled or whatever, but it seemed like a bad omen, and so we looked around, took it all in, and moved on to our next option. Well, we settled on Gunner Pool and we picked a site overlooking one of the falls, and we set up camp and started exploring around the place.
All right, supper's over. We built the fire up. Gonna hang out a little bit and then head on to bed. We'll talk to you in the morning.
Well, at about 4:30, we were woken up with a thunderstorm. A whole bunch of lightning, so rather than getting struck by lightning on the side of our hill, we moved into the truck for a little while.
Well, we spent the last part of the night in the rain. Ended up having to get in the truck because of lightning striking around us. Creek's up this morning. Everything's soaking wet, but they're forecasting some major serious weather for this afternoon, so we're gonna go ahead and just load everything up. We'll have to dry it out when we get back to where we're staying at, and take care of all that later. But right now, coffee time. I'll try to get a few more shots around the camp here before we head out, and I'll get back to you in a little bit. Well, we headed back up the hill and on our way out.
Like that, you want leave or
Every time you talk to them like that.
Well, the rain has settled in and we're crossing over the Black River. Anything that even resembles the Ozarks is behind us and the flatland delta's ahead. Really appreciate you watching the video, and thanks for coming with us on our trip, and we'll catch you next time.